her long reign, Elizabeth II reigned over more than 170 Prime Ministers. She reigned over 16 in New Zealand alone. And that same figure stands in Australia. In the UK, the figure stands at 15, and that's today's focus. The Queen's first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill. He famously served between 1940 and 1945 during World War II. What many people don't know is that he made a grand return in 1951. He was appointed to his second term on 6 February 1952 as King. He reported a good relationship with Churchill and saw him as a father figure to him. Churchill remained Prime Minister until stepping back into England. Though widely considered Britain's greatest PM, his second term is largely more unknown than his first. Churchill was succeeded by his unofficial deputy, Anthony Eden. Eden's tenure was brief and was dominated by one event, the Suez Crisis. Despite the brief tenure, Eden always found that he had a good relationship with the late Queen. Succeeding Eden was his Chancellor, Harold Macmillan. During his 6-year term, he relied heavily on the Queen's growing institutional memory. He famously found the Queen transparent and resigned in 1963 due to ill health. Succeeding Macmillan was his Foreign Secretary, Alec Douglas-Home. A member of the House of Lords, he resigned to contest the parliamentary by-election. He won, returning to the House of Commons as an MP. Though he was only a Lord for a brief part of his tenure, he was the last member of the House of Lords to be PM. His relationship with Elizabeth II was a very good one. Douglas-Home knew the Queen personally long before he became PM. In 1964, Harold Wilson became the Queen's first Labour Prime Minister, winning the 1964 election. Remarkably, he was defeated by the Conservatives in 1970, but in 1974 he returned to his old position. Perhaps most shockingly, there was one final twist in the tale. He resigned as PM in 1976. His relationship with the late Queen was a surprisingly good one. During Wilson's 4 years in opposition, Edward Heath was Prime Minister. Heath was a stoic politician and found small talk difficult. Though his interactions with the Queen were perfectly proper, they lacked the warmth that she shared with Wilson. Succeeding Wilson in 1976 was his Foreign Secretary, James Callaghan. Callaghan's relationship with the Queen was described as a good one. However, his premiership was marred by difficulty, and he lost the 1979 election. Succeeding Callaghan was Britain's most controversial Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, and she completely changed British politics forever, but whether that's good or bad is up to you. Her premiership and policies still significantly divide people to this day. To her heroes, she is someone who won the Falklands War and helped change the British economy for the better, but to her critics, she widened the North-South divide, and the gap between the rich and the poor also widened. The late Queen and Thatcher shared a strange relationship. Their weekly sessions were stiff and they disagreed on global issues such as the South African apartheid. However, they did share a deep mutual respect for each other. Replacing Thatcher was her Chancellor, John Major. He was the first UK Prime Minister younger than the Queen. Considered more moderate, he still continued many of her policies. Major and the Queen had a strong relationship, and Major acted as a crucial person in one of the most turbulent decades of the Queen's reign. Succeeding him was Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair. Blair wanted a modern cool UK which conflicted with some of the monarchy's traditions. Despite this, he and the Queen had a strong professional relationship. Their relationship reached its peak in 1997 following the death of Princess Diana. Blair was succeeded by his Chancellor, Gordon Brown. Brown's premiership was largely dominated by the Great Recession of 2008. Brown's relationship with the Queen was shaped by his serious analytical demeanour. The Queen highly respected his work ethic, and he spoke warmly of his relationship with her. In the 2010 general election, it was an extraordinary affair. British politics had dreaded the post-war two-party system. Though they were not always competing for first place in the polls, the Lib Dems started a three-way politics, and they dominated some of the debates heading up to the election, topping opinion polls. In the end, there was a hung parliament, with the Conservatives first and the Lib Dems third. After days of negotiations, a decision was made. The Conservatives and Liberal Democrats would form a coalition. David Cameron became Prime Minister with Clegg as deputy. But that wasn't the only huge event in Cameron's premiership. After he won a majority in 2015, he promised a referendum on Brexit, the UK's future in the EU. The Brexit referendum was held in 2016 and the UK voted to leave the EU. The result would dominate the next 3 or 4 years of British politics and led to his resignation. The Queen and Cameron's relationship has been described as a good one. Succeeding Cameron was his Home Secretary Theresa May. Her premiership was dominated by Brexit, and without a parliamentary majority, she struggled. But May's relationship with the Queen was rooted in their shared sense of Christian faith. Replacing May was former Mayor of London and her former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, who was a very unconventional politician, sometimes regarded as a celebrity politician. To his supporters, he was the PM who got Brexit done and led the UK through COVID. But to his critics, he was a selfish, arrogant man who cared more about himself than the country. He had plenty of scandals during his premiership, the most notable of which was Partygate. In March 2020, Boris Johnson ordered the UK public to stay at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic. After months of varying restrictions, from national lockdowns to regional restrictions, they were all abolished in the UK by March 2022. However, Johnson and his colleagues broke lockdown rules.
The most humiliating took place on the 16th of April 2021. Just the following day, Elizabeth II famously sat alone during Prince Philip's funeral. Johnson and the Queen did have a good, strong professional relationship, but it was marred by a constitutional crisis in 2019. Ultimately, scandals did end Johnson's premiership. Liz Truss was appointed by the Queen as Prime Minister at Balmoral on the 6th of September 2022, and just 2 days later, tragedy struck. Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in the world without a regent, died. She was 96, and Liz Truss's premiership was put on hold. Liz Truss's would not be as lengthy as the late Queen. She resigned after 49 days, becoming Britain's shortest-serving Prime Minister. Overall, Elizabeth II reigned over 15 UK Prime Ministers, a record for a British monarch. The relationship with every Prime Minister shaped her reign. She will be very missed, and is very missed. If you like that, please remember to like and subscribe for more.